It actually really frustrated me because it didn't click initially. But that's what pushed me to dive more, to learn more. And for someone who was really uncomfortable initially in the water, right? I'm quite happy with how I progress.
Off Gassing, a scuba podcast with host Nick Hogel. The most difficult journeys bear the most fulfilling rewards. In the beginning, scuba diving was a challenging endeavor for Alex Dimasacat. In his determination to overcome, he has developed a passion and dedication to this sport. This passion has now become a family pastime. The challenges, the rewards, the unforgettable moments he can now share with those closest to him. The wrecks of Subic Bay, beautiful reefs of Anilao, demanding dive sites of Singapore, courses with loved ones, the art of relaxation, and much more. Please enjoy. Alex, how are you doing this wonderful morning?
I'm doing really well, Nick. How are you? I've been watching your videos. It seems there's been a lot of traveling when it comes to diving.
Oh, I could say the same about you. I feel like I always see you in different places, and you're doing a lot of amazing diving. But with my traveling, last year, 2024 was definitely a good year for traveling. I was able to go to quite a few destinations, so it was quite nice. And hopefully there'll be a little bit more traveling this year. I have a couple things that I'm trying to work on, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, the traveling's always good.
Great, yeah, and I try to do the same as well. I mean, try to make the most of it since we're based in Southeast Asia, so get our volume in, dive as
Yeah,
much as we
yeah.
can.
No, for
Yeah.
sure. And you're based in Singapore, correct?
In Singapore, yes, that's correct, right? Which is a good spot actually for doing dive travels because we have access to all these nice, I mean, most of it recreational sites, but you have the shipwrecks as well, and then cave diving. So it's a really great location.
Being based in Singapore, that's got to be quite nice because there's definitely a lot of major destinations that you can go to from there. Usually, when we travel, because we're obviously based in Penang, we'll usually go through KL, but a lot of times it'll be going through Singapore. KL is pretty good though too.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so Singapore and KL, they're both airport hubs. Literally, the rest of Southeast Asia is just a stone's throw away. So it's really good location for scuba diving.
Definitely, definitely. And that it's actually I love it because I feel like within, a 2 to 3 hour max flight, like you could get to quite a few destinations. So it's always nice to travel around and hit up the different areas, especially yeah, Southeast Asia has some of the most amazing dive destinations.
Exactly, right? Like Bali, for example, is just like an hour or two away. It's couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. And I think before COVID, they used to have direct flights from Penang to Bali, so there is no longer direct. So we're usually going through KL or Singapore, but it's still not too bad. We can get there pretty quickly. But well, one, I would like to welcome you to the podcast. Thank you for taking the time today and joining. It's always great to hear from you. Actually, I can't remember the last time I actually saw you, but yeah, I'm excited to have you on and hear more of your story.
Thanks for having me here. It's actually been more than a year. Like last
Uh,
time I saw you was in Tioman.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I didn't. The last time I was in Tiamen was in March, and I was hoping to get back there like at some point before the end of the year last year, but I wasn't able to make it. And I'm hoping to, because I know they kind of closed down for the rainy season, so I'm hoping to get back
Yep.
there either in March or April of this year.
Yeah, let me know. So we're planning a trip there as well. Hopefully do a tech dive at HMS Repulse. So that's going to be fun.
Cool, cool, cool. So let me throw out my first question, or my, not so much first question anymore, but so tell me how and why you became a scuba diver. Tell me about that first breath underwater. Was it an amazing moment? Was it, I absolutely hate this? Was it, this is okay, I think I could do a little bit more? Tell me all about it.
Sure, yeah. So my hometown is actually 10 minutes from Anilao, so very popular dive site in the Philippines, in Southeast Asia. Lots of macro diving and reefs, deep dives as well. I mean, I should have started earlier, really, right? So it's accessible for me, but I mean, it's better late than never. So just before COVID, I did my discovery dive and didn't really have a good time. So one of the dive masters was actually like a police part timing, and he was like really nasty to
Oh,
us. So I was doing my discovery with my wife and my brother, and yeah, he was literally manhandling us, like pulling our leg, like shouting at us. And it's like, oh, this is not good. But that didn't deter me, right? So as soon as COVID lockdowns ended, as soon as it reopened, right, went home to the Philippines to do my advanced open water, right? And like what I've said earlier, I should have started way earlier, right? My first checkout dive, right? Like I had three sea turtles circling around me, right? And I told myself, like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. True enough, right? I've been diving constantly since then. It's only been 2 years. And a week after I got my open water, I convinced my wife to join me as well, right? And here we are, like exploring these sites, exploring different configurations and diving, and really enjoying what this new hobby has to offer. So I really like this new hobby of mine, scuba diving. It's something that I know I would be doing for the rest of my life.
yeah, no, that's amazing. I completely agree because I started kind of late too. I think I was, oh, let me think. I was in my mid to late 30s when I started scuba diving,
Hmm.
and I definitely wish I would have started a lot sooner. But better late than never. And that's awesome that you were able to get your partner to dive soon after your open water. When we met, we were going through fundamentals, me and Becca, and I'd been a diver for quite a long time
Hmm.
before she started to do it. But she agreed to do the fundamentals, which is definitely not the easiest of courses. So I definitely applaud and kudos to her for doing it because a lot of people wouldn't have wanted to do that course.
Yeah, and Becca's progression has been impressive as well. So it's really good to see someone who was initially hesitant to do scuba diving, and then right after class, you see that they are very comfortable, and they also mentioned that it's something that they want to do, um,
Yeah, yeah.
at least for the next few years. Yeah.
After you completed your initial courses, when did you start moving into technical or different configurations? Like, what prompted you to do that? Just a drive to know more?
It's funny you ask that because every time I get asked the question, it's really through Reddit, right? I was following the Reddit progression, what they always recommend in terms of progressing with scuba diving, right? And it's the same advice I would say in on scuba board, right? So you do your open water, and then right after that, you don't really have to do a lot of dives, right? You do advanced open water to extend your range, right? And they did warn on Reddit. I mean, despite its name, advanced open water, it doesn't really prepare you to be an advanced diver, right? It's more of a sampler for courses for primers, but it's a necessary evil that you need to do for you to extend your range up to 30 meters. And then right after that, Red recommendation is doing nitrox, especially if you're doing lots of liverboards. And then finally, well, not really finally, you do GUI fundamentals, right? And it's up to you whether you want to continue the technical route through GUI or do it with other agencies. Or, I mean, stay at recreational, and I see a lot of people doing that, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? So that's really the Reddit formula, and I'm glad I followed it, right? So for me personally, I told myself I want to do the technical route. For me, in terms more of, I mean, improving, progressing, right? I mean, I've recently done my Dewey Tech one, and maybe next year I'll do my cave, and this time do it with my wife.
Oh, awesome, awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
So, when you started getting into the technical side of it, did you
Mhm.
find it difficult to, as far as skill wise, like the trim, the buoyancy, was it completely new and introduced to you at that time, or were you kind of exposed to it a little bit before you, because you knew you wanted to go down that route?
Sure. I mean, I've been reading forums a lot, so I knew what to expect. But as they always say, Dewey Fundamentals is always a humbling experience. So I was fairly new back then. I think I was only like 2 months, 3 months into diving when I did my fundamentals, and I thought my buoyancy was decent, only to realize that I have lots of things to work on. But which is good, right? Feedback is always good. It's nice to see yourself a video of yourself, right? So it's easier for you to make these adjustments, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's huge too, because I took my fundamentals course. I'd already been a diver for shit, I can't remember how long, but I've been a diver for quite a bit before I took the fundamentals. And yes, I definitely even found it challenging. There was some things that when I was going through it, I'm like, okay, this isn't so bad. I'd been in
Hmm.
back mount doubles before, not that much time in back mount doubles, but obviously there's a standard that they hold you to while you're going through the course. And I really, really enjoyed it. But oddly enough, it was really funny. I remember one of the toughest things that I was having, or one of the most challenging things was for me was the team aspect of the diving, because I felt I
Hmm.
was a good teammate until I would see videos of myself, and then I'd be like, wow, I'm really not a great teammate.
Don't say that. You're fine. I was there in class.
Yeah, I could have been
But
better. I definitely could have been better.
But yeah, as they say on Reddit, right? It's really an essay or a love letter to diving, right? I would recommend it to everyone. And now with the update in Dewey's recreational tech programs, it's even more accessible with the performance diver course. You also have open water and open water that Dewey now offers. So it's really great. Now is a great time to start scuba diving, and I've been convincing a lot of people, especially people from my hometown, to dive because like Anilao is great. It's accessible.
Yeah, yeah, no, and I'm actually very, very excited to see the future of where that's going to go. The fact that it is more accessible, the GUE recreational route, because I do think that, not I don't I hate on here to like agency bash or anything, and I never call out the agency. It's always the instructor. It's always,
Mm.
the circumstances that they have to teach under. And it's nice to see that they're coming out and kind of having this big push with the recreational side of it. Unfortunately, there is a lot of bad training out there, and hopefully, this will kind of put a little bit of a dent in that area and make it a little bit better.
I agree, and I really like the inclusive approach, right? I mean, good diving is for everyone. A lot of people might be overwhelmed. I think with these changes, right, it's easier for them to get access to get a sense of if this is something that they want. Yeah, it's good.
So, speaking of, and I am probably gonna butcher this. Anillo, right? Anillo, is that how you pronounce it? Anillo.
Anilao.
Anilao. Did I say that
Yes,
correctly?
yes, yeah.
Anilao.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about the diving there. Like, what kind of diving is it? What can you see? What conditions are? Just tell me a little bit about that
Sure.
area.
Yeah, so Anilao is always a special place in the Philippines because that's how scuba diving started in the country. So it's really mostly recreational sites, right? So lots of reefs. It's also popular for macro diving, so a lots of macro diving site. And then just recently, some tech shops have been popping up because on shore dives, right? It's a very steep slope. So even on the dive center that I always go to, it can go to as deep as 80 meters, and it's insane how near it is from the shore, how accessible it is. So it's great that they're starting to open tech-oriented dive centers now.
As far as like, I mean, obviously the Philippines is very well known
Mhm.
for scuba diving. There's some amazing sites. Where are some of the places that you like to go to when you go back there?
Subic is special for me. I mean, I wasn't really a fan of wreck diving before, and then unlike all the other sites in the Philippines, Subic is known to have really bad visibility. But when my wife and I came to Subic and got to experience shipwrecks, we won't stop talking about it. Right? It's been it's been like over a year since we went to Subic, and like we keep trying to plan trips just to go back to Subic. Like even like researching about the shipwrecks found in that site. So it used to be a U.S. Naval base, and what they do is they when they scuttle ships, right? They put it in Subic Bay, and that's where Navy do their training. But there are actually other legitimate shipwrecks from sank during World War II. So there's also some fighter planes at around the 40-meter mark that they're quite interesting. So you can still see the machine guns attached. So it's a really interesting site.
So I actually have been to Subic, and I completely agree. I that's probably the area that I was most exposed to wreck diving. I actually took an advanced wreck course. I don't want to say. I mean, I've probably been to one or two wrecks beforehand, but that site is actually pretty amazing for the amount of wrecks that you can go and dive. I remember the first. So when I moved to Malaysia, Subic Bay was the first place that I went to go diving, which I thought was funny because, here I am, just moved to Southeast Asia, the hub of some of the most amazing diving in the world. And I go to Subic Bay, and I remember when I get in there, I was like, oh, I feel like I could be in a lake in Texas because the visibility was, I don't want to say it was bad, but it wasn't great. And I just remember it being super kind of like, oh, I'm diving. I just moved to Southeast Asia, and the first dive I do is in Subic. But the course, I had an amazing course. I really had such a good time, and I felt like I learned a ton. It was kind of, I don't want to say my first venture into the overhead, but it was definitely training going into overhead environments where it's kind of a whole new genre of diving for sure.
Exactly. And for me, that's when I was exposed to really good dive buddies. The skill level is there, team awareness is really good, and even dive guides. I mean, I was telling my wife, like, I feel insecure diving with them. They're so stable. And that's what's pushed us. For my wife, when she did Dewey fundamentals, right? She planned on stopping on recreational level, which is fine. There's a lot of things to explore in Southeast Asia for recreation, but since she got a taste of wreck diving on Subic, she told me that, I mean, you gotta wait for me for you to do Cave one. So I'll work on my tech upgrade. I'll start diving doubles and dry suit, right? So let's do this together. So let's do overhead environments, and maybe after or before Cave one we can do advanced rec, like what you've done. A lot of people are telling me that, I mean, if you have to do a, I mean, even if you're cave trained, right? Advanced rec is a must do course.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
I did the advanced rec course before I went into my full cave training, and I definitely found it to be it was very helpful going into the overhead cave environment just because there's a lot of skills that can translate. Just curious, what shop do you usually go with when you head out to Subic?
Oh, I go with boardwalks. It's inside the naval base, so it's easy. You just walk to the shore, hop on a boat, and then you're at the dive sites within 10 minutes. It's a really
Awesome.
a run shop as well.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I'll have to visit next time. When I went there, I took a course with Andy Davis, which I really enjoyed. I was in a side mount configuration, which also I wanted to ask you because I know GUE fundamentals generally it's going to be back mount doubles, but you also dive side mount quite a bit. Or is that, do you not? I'm pretty sure you do, right?
No, actually, so most of my dive footage, right? I'm filming my wife, so it's all her
Okay,
doing the
okay.
side mount. But I am curious though because it forces me to extend my legs to be stretched out, right? And I mean to be narrower, right? So I'm curious. I actually want to try and do some side mount dives.
Oh, I could have sworn I thought you side mount dive. Okay, so you don't. Well, are you going to try it this year?
Ah, for sure. Even sooner, maybe next month.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
Because I've
Yeah,
already been talking to people. Yeah.
that's awesome. Okay. Wow. I apologize. Yeah. So the footage I usually see is of her because I remember she was actually in the fundamentals when we met while I was going through fundamentals. She was, I can't remember if she had just taken or she was on her way to take the side mount course.
She was planning to, that's why she was asking you a lot of
Ah.
questions
Okay. Okay.
on
Okay. Okay.
configuration, which one to get. So yeah, that's really how it started.
Okay, okay, okay. And just curious, so when you go to take your cave one, where do you plan on taking that?
I was initially planning to do it in Sardinia, but I wanted to do the pragmatic approach. So I'll buy undergarments just for colder environments, right? And realistically, I mean, I need to travel to these cold places to dive. Whereas in Mexico, right, I can wear the same undergarments that I have, right, and then
Yeah,
plan
yeah.
a trip or two every year to Mexico and do it.
No, I agree. I would like to get into some cold water diving this year. I'm hoping to. I am a little bit nervous though because I don't fare too well in cold environments. So I'm curious to see how I would handle myself in extreme cold because the water in Mexico it is a little bit colder, but for the most part it's still a tropical environment. I do get cold towards the end of the dives because the water I'm not sure in Celsius, but I want to say it's like 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
Mm-mm.
I still have trouble doing the conversion from Fahrenheit to Celsius. Like I know it, but I need to get a little bit better. I mean, I've been living out here for almost a few years now, so I should start to to get better about that.
That's fine. So that's around 21 degrees. Yeah,
Okay,
that
okay.
that gets cold, especially if you do longer dives. Because I've heard, I mean, I've never been there. So caves are shallower, so you tend to do longer dives, like in the 3 hour range. So I would imagine, I mean, people would get really cold.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I would definitely
Yeah.
get cold towards the end of the dives where I wish I would have had like just another layer of undergarments. And then the contrast of like on the surface it would be so hot and then it was so nice to get into the water and then by the end of the dive
Exactly.
I'd be so cold and I'd be like, "Oh man, this is like my body is just going through absolute changes right now."
Yeah. And it's the struggle in Southeast Asia as well. I mean, we know we need to spend time with our dry suits because I mean it's your buoyancy. You need to get used to it. It's redundancy as well. But since we're in a hot and humid environment, right? It's really tough on the surface, and especially for me who overheats easily, it's a challenge, right? I've been trying like different undergarments just to see whether it will cool me down at least on the surface faster. I mean, I guess it's a necessary evil, right? I mean, practicality, yes. I mean, most of the dive sites in Southeast Asia, we can do it on our wetsuits, right? But you never know when you need to travel to these places or when you need to do longer dives. So that's why I need to put my hours in at least.
Yeah, no, no, for sure. So I was just in Ahmed in November and I brought my dry suit because I wanted to get more time in the dry suit. I brought my rebreather out there, so I wanted to, just get my rebreather on, have the dry suit, just get more comfortable in that configuration. And I was dying from the heat. I literally,
Yeah.
I had to stop like probably halfway through the trip. I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna start diving with a wetsuit, and it was welcome. I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoy it. And it's funny how much you forget how much easier it is to dive in a
Yes.
wetsuit. It's just so much nicer. I mean, it's not nice. It just depends, obviously, on what you're doing. But what kind of dry suit do you have?
So if you would notice the pattern now, so I take a lot of advice from forums, right? So there is like a 500 page thread on Scuba board gushing about this brand called Seaskin. So it's a
Okay,
dry suit
okay.
brand based in UK. They do custom fit for you. The tri-laminate material is also really good, and the pricing is actually really competitive. So I got this as my first dry suit. However, I got some fit issues after a year since I mean most of us folks in Asia have been switching. So there's this brand called Navy Fell. Actually, I've only dived with it for 1 to 2 weeks, and I'm really happy. So much more flexible material, but still sturdy. Valve drills are now easier than ever. I was struggling before with my older dry suit, right? And most importantly, I don't overheat as much because I think what people like the most about Seaskin is the material. It's built like a tank. It's rugged. But for diving in Southeast Asia, man, I know that dry suit doesn't really provide insulation underwater. It's your undergarment, right? But on the surface, it feels like an oven. I mean, I guess pros and cons. But if I were living in a colder climate, I imagine I would dye my sea skin every day.
Okay, okay. The new brand, what was it called?
Navy Fell. It's based. It's a new Chinese brand with
Oh,
very good
okay.
reviews. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, I'll have to get
yeah.
that link from you and check it out. Yeah, because so I got dry suit, and I think it's an amazing dry suit. It's a little bit thick for Southeast Asia, which I was told it was gonna be. I knew what I was getting into, but I'm very happy with the dry suit. But I was kind of looking for something more. I don't want to. I would even say a little bit more travel friendly. It's a little bit heavy. I have an SF Tech,
Yeah.
and it would be nice. And it's a same thing. It's a rugged, super
Mm,
reliable. The reviews on it are absolutely amazing. It's pretty hard to find a bad review on an SF Tech, and I was kind of looking for something that would be a little bit nicer for that Southeast Asia weather because yeah, it
exactly.
gets pretty good. And I know the few brands that I've heard of or that some people were recommending. I hear Avatar is pretty light and travel friendly. I
Yes.
haven't tried one myself, but yeah, I'll have to look at that brand and check it out.
Yeah, yeah. I would definitely recommend. I mean, I got my wife one as well, so it's good.
Oh, nice,
Yeah.
nice. Are they custom fit?
They are custom fit. I mean,
Oh,
you
okay,
have the
okay.
option to do custom fit, but the manufacturer was telling me I have weird proportions, so it's like it's fine. Okay, I'll do custom fit.
uh, I feel like the biggest problem that I worry about with my dry suit is that my weight fluctuates so much that I feel like I'll get a custom fit, when I'm like fit and thin, and then, or not thin, but like when I'm a little bit fit, a little bit lighter on the weight side, and then come after winter, Christmas, New Year's time when I just have gained a bunch of weight, I'm like, oh, I need to lose some weight. But yeah, I got to get better on the fitness side of things. But yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
dry suit is definitely, I really enjoyed diving it when I can, but I definitely need to get something with a little bit more lighter undergarments. Not undergarments,
I
but just
agree.
lighter material.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally agree. It's a game changer, and I know for me, I'll give you context, right? So I feel like I need to spend more time than everybody else. Also, really take time to learn because diving didn't naturally click for me. I always find that I'm a fast learner, even in my other hobbies, but diving is not it for me. It actually really frustrated me because it didn't click initially. But that's what pushed me to dive more, to learn more. And for someone who was really uncomfortable initially in the water, right? I'm quite happy with how I progress. So it's really the reason why I've been putting the hours in, especially in the past 2 years. So past 2 years I've already done what, over 400 dives, like since
Oh,
I started with diving. But it's really because of my frustration, right? Like I go into a hobby like cycling, it clicked instantly. And what pushed me to train more is that I've been like decent in terms of my speed. Like I was placing really well when I joined races. But with diving, I'm naturally a tense person. I like to do things fast. And as you know, in diving, it's the total opposite. So you have to be fully relaxed. You have to take it easy and slow. You stop, you pause, you think, you act, and then you stop again and pause. So it's really a foreign concept for me, and I really had to make sure that I take time to develop my skills and dive more than everyone else. Just for it to finally click and take me to a point where I'm satisfied with my performance. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not satisfied still. That's why I've set these goals to progress and learn additional skills and prove to myself that this is something that could work.
that's actually amazing though, because you, like, if things are a little bit difficult for people, a lot of people would just quit and say, okay, this isn't for me. But the fact that you want to persevere and get better, and I can completely relate. I don't want to say I'm a horrible student, because I feel like as student wise, my drive to learn and push myself to be better, I feel like I'm very good in those terms. But it does take me a little bit to learn, certain skills. As far
Mm,
as like theory wise, I wish I could take up that knowledge easier. I'm not the best when it comes to theory or learning theory. I have to work harder, I feel like, than a lot of other people to get the concepts down, to get the numbers down, to get the equations down. And then even in the water, sometimes things don't click. And that's why I'm such a huge fan of video, because then I can actually see myself,
exactly.
see what I'm doing wrong, and then it's a little bit easier for me to improve. But and I always joke around with instructors or anybody that I'm learning from. I'll tell them, I'm like, hey, treat me like a 9-year old child. Talk to me like a 9-year old child, because it'll be easier for me. Like, talk to me like I don't know what I'm doing, because then it'll click easier. Because sometimes I'll get in my own head, and then it just spirals downhill. But no, I think that's amazing that you continue to persevere and push through, because at the end of the day, it'll make you better than the other divers around, because you had to work harder for it. So you
Exactly.
you know the value of how difficult it was to get there, so you're not gonna let it defeat you as easy.
Exactly, right? And people are surprised when they ask me like, how long have I been diving? I mean, it's only been 2 years, right? But I have done my hours just to make sure that I improve in areas where I think that needs work, right? So I focus on them with dives, which is really great because I'm a man of many hobbies. For all these hobbies that I have, like drone racing, bicycling, it instantly clicked for me. And what motivated me was that I was doing well. I was doing better than everyone else, right? So I keep progressing in training just to see where my ceiling is. But for diving, it's more like, oh, this is not clicking as fast as my other hobbies. I'm frustrated with myself, right? But how do I make this productive, right? How do I make sure I improve? And for me, it's more about forcing myself to be more comfortable, like doing surface drills, and then making sure every dive I do is purposeful, right? So what's an area that I can work on? Because aside from Anilao, I do a lot of diving in Pulau Hantu in Singapore. And if you've heard about Pulau Hantu, right? Everyone dives who dives Pulau Hantu talks crap about Pulau Hantu. Right? It's an acquired taste. Visibility is really bad. Like on some cases you can't even see your dive computer, right? But I must say, just because there isn't a lot to see in Pulau Hantu, I mean, I take it back. There is a lot if you do macro photography. But outside macro photography, especially people who don't take photographs, right? There's nothing else to see. But I must say, the skill level in diving in Singapore is actually high. And I always joke that it's because people are bored. There's nothing to see in Pulau Hantu. They focus their diving on training. So yeah, I think I think it's one of the reasons why it's work.
That's funny. I literally was about to ask about the diving in Singapore, and I like it because obviously there's a lot of divers in Singapore as far as, it's easy to travel to. And
hmm
how is the dive community there, the people that actually go out? Is it quite big, or is it a pretty small group of people that will actually do the diving in Singapore?
I mean, it's a small country and it's a small community, but I like the format in diving. So we dive this big boat called Dolphin Explorer. It can fit up to 20 divers, right? So it's really social dives every weekend. So the boat goes out in the southern islands in Singapore, and then you do your dives, and during your surface intervals, you socialize, right? So it's good, and I think that social aspect is why the level of diving is relatively high. People are curious about trim and buoyancy because they see it with other divers in the same boat. And yeah, I mean, I joke about it, but it's half true. I mean, people are bored. There's nothing to say, so you focus on training. And then when you can, you travel outside.
Oh, that's funny. I can't remember who I was chatting with, but I was telling somebody because I know obviously Singapore is not a dive destination in terms of places to visit to go dive. But
hmm
I definitely want to make it out there at some point and do some diving just to see, because I've heard about that dive site so much. And is that the only diving in Singapore?
It is, unfortunately. So they're trying to open new dive sites, but it's still a few years far out. So last weekend I was actually volunteering with the Government Environment Agency just to cultivate those newer dive sites, monitor progress of, I mean, coral reefs to see if there's potential, and hopefully, I mean, after a few years, they'll open it up for everyone else to enjoy.
Okay, okay. Obviously, it's a big shipping port. There's a lot of ships that go in and out. Is it pretty far
Yeah.
away from the area that you're diving in?
No, it's actually quite near the shipping port, near the oil refineries, and there's also lots of reclaimed land, so it's a perfect recipe for bad visibility in these dive
Oh, okay,
sites.
okay.
Yeah.
I keep well, I mean I haven't in quite a while, and maybe I'll try to find somebody at some point, but Penang is obviously not known for diving. We have a lot of nice pools up here, but there's definitely no areas for diving. I know of some people that have been out around the island and have been diving, but when I first moved here I was trying to get people to go and do some dive sites just to see like what's around, because I feel like there's probably something, but I have not found anybody that's willing to go. So if anybody in the Penang area or even in Malaysia is listening, let's go find some areas in Penang to dive. But
Let's do
yes,
it. Yeah.
yeah, let's do it. No, there's great. We can have a big party. There's a lot of good food here. We could go eat some food, go do some probably extremely low visibility diving, do some training. But yeah, there's a lot of nice pools. But there's some close diving. Like if you go up to Kolipe is pretty nice. Even Langkawi, there's
Mhm.
some decent diving. And then obviously on the east coast of the east coast of Malaysia, there's definitely some really nice diving out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we went to Kota Kinabalu last year, and we thoroughly enjoyed dive sites there.
Okay, tell me a little bit about. So I've heard a little bit about the diving. I've heard in Kota Kinabalu, it's not the greatest compared to other places in Malaysia. But where did you go diving out there?
I'm trying to recall. It's hard to pronounce. I don't want to butcher the name. So it's called Manantani Bay. There is shipwreck there. It was recently sank. I think 3 years, right? So it's interesting to see. It's fully intact. You can actually see the toilets.
Ah,
It's still well preserved. So it's a good dive site, and lots of jacks and sardines. It's a decent site. It's quite good, quite accessible as well. On the surface, like you can do hiking, explore lots of, I mean, I would say touristy places, but there's also lots of food options. So I would want to, I mean, return there maybe this year or next year.
okay, okay. What was the visibility like?
Quite decent, like 5, 8 meters.
Oh, okay, okay. You know what's nice too? So diving, I did a lot of diving in Texas. At that, my local diving spot was a lake, and the visibility is not great compared to a lot of places that you can go. And the one nice thing that when I was teaching there, I would always tell people if you can enjoy the diving here anywhere you go, you're going to absolutely love. And that is kind of a plus, like having a dive site in your area with lower visibility. If you can enjoy that when you go to other places, it's always better, right?
Exactly, right? So for my case, it's Pulauhan too. And it's funny when we were diving recently in Anilao, there were divers who flew all the way from the US, from UK to dive. And the locals were worried because the visibility is quite bad. And I told them, like, it's quite bad in your standards, right? But I think everyone would appreciate reef life, underwater life in this part of the world because visibility is relatively better than other places.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's especially depending on where you're coming from. It's they were probably blown away because there's been days where I'll go out because I still remember my low visibility days. So there'll be days when people are like, "Oh, the visibility is not good today," and I'm like, "What? What are you talking about? This is absolutely amazing! Like I'm having so much fun."
Yeah, there's something for everyone, which is great.
Yeah. No, exactly, exactly. And it's all about just enjoying the moment and enjoying the dive for sure. So I'm actually just curious, out of all of your hobbies, which one would you say is your favorite?
Scuba diving, I would say so far, because normally after a year, I get bored and explore other hobbies. But I mean, it's a I consider it's a success that I'm 2 years into the hobby, and for me, there's still lots of things to explore, to learn. So I really like it. But what I like about these hobbies as well is that there's skill crossover, I guess, to, I mean, other areas, other aspects of your life, like work. Like for bicycling, when I used to race, I was actually doing a few in Malaysia. What it taught me was resilience. Like, you know that, I mean, you're already suffering. You can't hold your pace anymore, but I mean, you need to suck it up because it's harder to catch up if you fall behind your group, right? So that's the cycling for me. I also went into sim racing. So that's direct skill transfer. It made me a better driver. And for diving, really, it forced me to be a little bit more relaxed, right? And as I've said earlier, I'm a tense person. I mean, people have always known me to be the calmest person in the room, but diving, I realize, right, if you're not truly relaxed, right, there's certain giveaways that you're not relaxed. Your consumption rate, your stability. And I really like this learning process because of scuba diving. So it forces me to slow down, to appreciate, and also I mean since I think 60%, 70% of my dives is with my wife. It improve our communications as well because with with scuba diving, I mean, there's a lot of these factors where it's harder to communicate underwater. So you rely on sign language, you rely on other visual cues. I mean, yes, there's your wet notes, but you don't rely on it every time. And it's really important to align during briefing. And I think it's gotten to a point that I just look at my wife's eyes now underwater and she knows what we need to do, right? So it's that kind of synchronization. And it translated really well to the surface, I must say. So it's really good. I was even thinking that it's a good team building session for my team. Go on scuba diving, learn more about teamwork and communications. But of course, there's the potential legal issues because you're sending a whole team with minimal diving experience, so it's not really that feasible. But I mean, these factors aside, right? That it would be an ideal, I mean, team building exercise for work. So I really like these skill transfers, lesson learns that translates well to the surface to real life. So yeah, it's great. So next steps, I mean, my wife is hooked as well. So this year, our eldest is old enough to do his junior certification. And then once he reaches 12, which is 2 years from now, we're going to enroll him to Dewey's recreational program. So that's really how, I mean, diving is embedded now into our lives. It's really something that is life changing for us, and what we are really thankful for. I mean, having discovered scuba diving, especially in such accessible places for us like Anilao.
I think that's absolutely amazing. I do think that diving can do wonders as far as couples therapy. We were joking around. We were joking around when me and Becca were in the fundamentals course. We're like, oh, this is basically like a couples therapy because we had to figure out communication on different levels. It's like you're saying, underwater, you can't talk, so you have to communicate with your teammate. And when we actually went into the course, we were saying, you know, we're going to be diving quite a bit together, so let's go and take this course because we'll be better teammates going into it. And I completely agree with the team building skills. The company that I worked for, I was trying to pitch that as an idea for team building skills, not necessarily go out to a low visibility area, but basically do a discover type scuba dive in a
Yep,
pool
yep.
where it's, nice visibility, it's a lot safer, controlled environment, and you could do your discover scuba dive, but then you can implement team building skills within that, because now,
Exactly.
yeah, you can't communicate using words, but you still have to communicate and work with the people that you're with, essentially underwater. So I do think it should be pushed more. I mean, it might be in businesses here and there, but I definitely see that there is, I obviously, more of a liability rather than doing like a
Exactly.
camping retreat or
So
something.
mitigation liability. I was thinking, would this fly with HR and legal? Hmm.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I'm
it,
sure there's
it,
a
it
way.
would
There's
have been
definitely a
nice.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a way.
Yeah.
Once you pitch it, and then you can start introducing scuba to more, because discover scuba dives. I mean, you're obviously bringing uncertified divers in there, so that could be. I feel like there's a way to make it possible, because I definitely think, as far as team building, it's such a valuable tool.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, my kids have expressed interest, and I think they've already have a good starting point because my both of my boys are really comfortable in the water. Like they do a lot of their swims. My eldest, actually, I took him for open water swims for the first time last month, so during the school break, and he really enjoyed. And he also kept asking me, like after having done his bubble maker for scuba, right? He's been asking me like, oh, when am I getting my certificate? Like, calm down. You're not old enough, but as soon as you're old enough, like we'll do it.
Oh, that'll
Which is
that'll
only a few months from
Y-
now.
Yeah. Oh, that's gonna be amazing. I was about to ask that, the family diving. Are you gonna bring the whole family into diving? And can you see them getting pretty into it, as far? Because I know sometimes kids, when their parents are doing something, the kids that don't want to do it. But I think that's amazing that you're gonna be bringing the whole family into this sport that you love.
Exactly. And they've been asking it because, as I've said, like I'm into these different hobbies, and my son always teases me, like your hobbies are boring, right? I tried him to get into drones. He didn't like it. He did like cycling, but I think it's a bit harder because there's also risks that you need to manage, right? There's also external factors, i.e., other cars when you cycle on the road. But with diving, I think the risks are much more controllable. I mean, relative to these other hobbies, as long as you dive within your limits and as long as you practice safety.
That's some solid advice. Well, speaking of advice, let me ask. My last question I usually like to throw out there is an advice question. So, as far as someone that dives with their partner quite a bit, someone that has done a lot of, I don't want to say extreme diving, but you're planning on doing some extreme, I guess, courses together, what is the best piece of advice that you could offer for couples that dive together, as far as getting through courses, or just, good advice for couples that dive together?
Yeah, so that's a good question. First of all, for me, it's safety. Yes, diving, there are risks involved, but it doesn't mean that people dive recklessly. It doesn't mean that they don't dive safe, right? I mean, diving safely is more important than ever, right? So I think that's the first thing that needs to be prioritized, especially if you're diving with your loved ones. And then second one, there's really different levels of interest. I mean, for me, as I've mentioned, I am diving a lot because I want to improve. I want to prove to myself that yes, maybe it didn't click initially, but I'll do my best to progress, to train, and be in a place where I'm satisfied with my performance. Which, don't get me wrong, I'm really pleased with my progression. With my wife, right, or for your partners, right, you don't have to force them to dive at the same pace, train at the same pace, right? Find something they like about scuba diving and then build on that. I mean, Sheena, my wife, was actually the one who approached me that she wants to do cave diving, and that's coming from a person that didn't know how to swim. So diving was her first exposure to water. It's coming from a person that said that she'll only do recreational sites and maybe do very shallow dives. But now, because of her seeing my progress and her discovering what she really wants about the hobby, right? It's really a self-initiated way to, progress further to explore other aspects of diving. And I'm really pleased because it's the a decision that she 100% made on her own. So it's good. We're both hooked, but I didn't force her to become hooked to the hobby. It's something that she willingly wants to do, which is really good.
That's the one of the things that I love most about diving is you see a lot of people that will, I don't want to say they'll set limits for themselves, but they'll be like, okay, this is the only type of diving I'm doing. And then next thing you know, they're pushing it a little bit further. Once they get more training, they feel more comfort. I absolutely love that because I've done that so many times where I'm like, yeah, I would never do that. Next thing, a year or two later, it's like, oh, here I am doing that. And I absolutely love that about not forcing it upon your loved one or your partner because it does happen quite a bit where you'll see this one person who loves the sport and then they try to push it onto other people and it doesn't always work out so well. So definitely, I think that's a huge thing.
Exactly, and it becomes a source of frustration. So we don't want that to happen. So yeah, it's let them do it at their own pace. Let them explore what they want about the hobby, and if they say they needed a break, that's fine. So as I've said, for most people, I know diving is a lifelong sport. So you don't really need to rush.
Awesome. Well, Alex, I absolutely appreciate you coming on to the podcast today. Thank you very much for taking the time to join. And I absolutely look forward to the next time we can meet up and get in the water together. Hopefully, Tiamin or at some point, maybe I'll swing down to Singapore and you can show me your local dive site.
Yeah, there you go, Pulahan too. Let's set it in the calendar. And thanks for having me here, Nick. I really appreciate it. I've been a fan of your show. I've watched several episodes actually. So keep doing what you do. It's actually a good gateway to get other people in this wonderful hobby.
Off Gassing, a scuba podcast.